someone who watched the original, was this first season up to standards of what you wanted from a live action? And if there was anything that you didn't enjoy or thought that it was a weird creative choice, what was it?
I'm going to start here because I think Jay already touched on it, and I think it needs to also be reiterated. The casting was fantastic for this show. I don't know why people are so hung up on this part of the show specifically. It just
Mm-hmm.
seems weird because I feel like once they announced who was casted, everybody was pretty in love with who they casted. Looked at it, was like, "Oh, damn, that looks like the cast would be the cast." So I'm just so confused why people are raining on that part of this show specifically. It seems dumb. I think every casting was fantastic. I've been watching a lot of interviews with the cast, so I love the fact that a majority of the cast, because I'm not going to say all of the cast, because it seems like Daniel Day Kim wasn't really like the biggest fan of the show, but
Oh,
everyone else,
oh,
big
gotcha.
fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone else, like big fans of the original show. So I love that there's that part of it. So obviously they want to make it look good, and obviously they wanted it to be good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and just from top to bottom, acting wise, especially because this was a lot of the first, their debuts as far as actors. Fantastic. Like, I don't know why people hated on that part, especially. Like, I really don't get it. Aang, the kid they got for that, was phenomenal throughout like he's the literal embodiment of what I expect the character to look and sound like throughout the show. I had zero problems with any of the story beat issues that
Mm-hmm.
so many people are harping on. For me specifically, I think what you said about these shows, the live action shows specifically, regarding the pacing, where they obviously can't show everything because it is
Yeah.
like a live action show. There's a budget. They can't do everything that they're able to do with the animated series. Um, they nailed it. Like, I think they nailed every single part that I wanted to see. It still had all of the heart. It still had all of the comedy. It still was able to give me all of the characters the way that I expected the characters to be. Um, I think if there was, I mean, even I was even thoroughly impressed with some of like the CGI stuff. Like, I think right off the rip, like the very first scene with the earth bending, like
I know.
the way the gravel came up, like it looked so real. Like, it was
Banger.
freaking beautiful. Yeah, it was so good. And that was like a perfect way to set the tone for the rest of the show. Everything looked so good to me. I really had no complaints with that part of it either. Honestly, now I'm just like checking every box. I really can't think of anything that I really was. I mean, there were small nuanced things that we, as sort of like critics of this kind of stuff, probably bothered me in the moment. But when I really think of like my over encompassing thoughts and sort of my entire watch experience, I enjoyed every minute of it. I loved that they were able to give a show that I liked watching as a kid and even into my late teen whatever years. Um, all of the things that I expected for it to be or for it to have in a live action film. I really had no complaints. Like, I think if anything, the only thing that I can think that was like a little not great for me was probably nope, never mind. I take that back. There wasn't anything that I could point out, honestly. Like, I just enjoyed it. So I was like, I don't know why people are complaining about it, honestly. Like, for me, I enjoyed it. I'm excited to see season 2 of it. This was probably my favorite from animated to live action show that we've
Nice. Right
gotten
on.
on Netflix. So yeah, shout out to the entire cast. Shout out to
And
everybody.
curious question, because I think I said it before on pod. I did not
Hmm.
watch the show in its entirety, cartoon
Yeah.
wise. Saw
Hmm.
bits and pieces here. Did this end with the end of book one,
Yes.
or it did?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
that was
This
the
was
end of
the
book
end
one.
of book
Okay,
one.
all right, right on,
Yeah.
right on. Throwing it over to you, Jalen. Obviously, you heard what Keone said. I know that you also watched the show. You had been vocal, I think, on the last recording that you enjoyed, and kind of shunned the naysayers on how the show has been so far. Were there any sort of things or liberties that they took that you enjoyed? Any liberties that you think they shouldn't have done? What were your thoughts?
I think there's one that is probably decently controversial that even I'm still kind of wrestling with, and it was the relation the way that they flipped the hierarchy with Azula, Zuko, and
Hmm.
Avatar Oz, or Lord Ozai. Because in the show, from the jump that Azula's the one that Ozai loves the most. Like Azula is the favorite. Zuko is just this kid that's too much like his mom. His dad hates him. That's why he gets exiled and
Hmm.
has to do Agni Kai and all that kind of stuff. So it was interesting that I guess they went for kind of leaving it up to the audience to fall in love with the relationship that and journey of what Zuko's doing, and then also do like a
Hmm.
crazier descent into Azula's madness with dad kind of
Hmm.
playing more mind games than anything. So that one I feel like they could have
Yeah, why
left
are you
more
playing
accurate.
games? I'm sick of the game. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, I think that one they could have left more accurate to the series, but it was an okay choice. It works, it's fine in the context of the show. Like nothing's like so out of pocket. Azula's still Azula by the time we get done with the show, which is the main thing. She just gets there a little
Hmm.
bit
Hmm.
differently than in the animated series, so that was fine. I think it's probably my most controversial one if I had to pick. My other one is that there's no. I mean, I'm trying to remember about. It's been a while since I watched the actual animated series. I don't think we get a mention of Toph until book 2, and I'm pretty sure that's how that goes. If I'm mistaken, I think that could have at least been thrown out there, just as a little fun thing they could have taken some liberties
Gotcha.
with, and maybe just mentioned the family of the Earth Kingdom that
Hmm.
she's a part of. Because book 2 is Earthbending, and then
Maybe they
the 3
had it,
comes
but they
full
didn't.
circle.
Maybe it was just one of those editorial cuts that they just
Could have
decided
been,
maybe we'll
yeah.
just save this for the next kind of. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because when she gets casted, everyone's gonna know, like,
But yeah,
oh yeah, Toph's coming, and that's gonna be a big one that they have to nail. But no,
that's
man, this
tough.
series was absolutely fantastic if you were an actual fan of the show. And I say actual fan because if you understand what the literal definition of the word adaptation means, the series did that. And in fact, I will argue we get more out of the live action
Mm.
adaptation in some areas in terms of story development and character development than we ever
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
in the animated series. We had to wait so many episodes to figure out what kind of relationship Aang had with his master and like the people at the Air Temple. That's in like the first three
That's the
minutes of
first episode.
literally the first episode establishes that connection, and we feel how badly it like when they get mowed down. Like we didn't see any of that in the animated series. That was like a quick 2-second flashback at some point. Like we saw the entire monk family get absolutely decimated by the Fire Nation. So immediately we have this connection to Aang that we never had in the animated series, and stuff like that. So I do
Jalen, I
think
didn't
they
realize you
missed.
were a firebender where you're spitting flames right now. That was a
Damn, sorry,
fantastic
bro.
breakdown.
I'm out here just
Mm,
cooking,
mm.
if you will. I will say this: a bit of a big critique. I will say is that the
Mhm.
relationship between Aang and Katara was not really seen or played on, if at all, in this first season, and it's
Hmm.
definitely there in the animated series. Like that's from the jump. Like we know
Gotcha.
they're gonna get together.
Yeah.
Obviously, in book 2 and 3,
Do
it's a little
you
bit more present because they're older,
do
but
you
like
think
we miss
that
those
this was
beats.
a creative choice? Because at least in the live action, there like in the cartoon, at least from what I can remember, there's an age difference, but it wasn't as drastic feeling in the animated. Where it is in the show, you can tell he looks much younger. Where they couldn't really
Yeah.
necessarily, you know what I mean? Like they couldn't
Yeah,
necessarily.
yeah, yeah.
I understood why they didn't, but I get what you're saying. Like that maybe they should have kind of given that tease into it
Because
a little
initially
bit.
he looks like he's like 7. Like I
Yeah,
was like, your
yeah. I
boy
was
But
like,
looks
like
pretty. I mean,
but
obviously
like for
interviews he's
example,
gone through puberty, but yeah.
like in the show, it's Aang and Katara in the lovers' cave when they're going through
I
the
did hear
Water
about that.
Kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, and
Hmm.
I understand that's probably why they did it for the live action adaptation, because live action they look a little bit like she obviously looks much older than the Aang actor, but like in reality in the show, the age gap is like 3 years. I think Aang's like 10 or something, and Katara is only like 13. Like it's not a big gap
Yeah.
even when you do it by the show. So like I think it would have worked fine if you did things creatively that wouldn't leave the audience like, oh whoa, what's it? FBI, we found her. You know what I mean? So as long as they
I
just
mean,
would have done
to your
something.
to your credit, we while we're watching the show, we did look up like the ages, and he is 14 right now, and she is 17. So it's not a far cry, but I think just
Right.
visually, it kind of when they filmed it, because now the boy's voice is dropped, and I think they gotta get filming.
Yeah, that
now.
boy hit
he's,
puberty.
he's going. He's like, I think it's gonna be what the dang. They better like
I'm the
lower the
Avatar
pitch
now.
on his voice.
Hello.
Hello. I'm trying
Honestly,
to
I was just say the only caveat I have with that, like I wholly agree. Like it's definitely a huge part of it. I don't mind that they're probably saving that for like a what the hell am I? Wow, why am I tongue twisted right now? Saving that for a future season. Like I don't mind that that's a story beat they could, you know, save through this season into the next. And there were moments, like obviously, like she kind of had like her water bending moments where she's learning, and he's sort of like encouraging her and that kind of stuff.
Wow, you're
So
so good.
yeah, I mean they threw those beats in there, so I was okay with it. But I do agree with what you're saying. Like obviously that is a huge part of the show, and that is something that will eventually have to play out. But I feel like with so much stuff, if you were a casual, it was something that you could sense, but you don't have, you know what I mean? Like you didn't need to see like on screen necessarily to believe it or feel that it's eventually going to happen. So I was like,
Yeah.
I do agree with what you're saying, though. It was, I mean, God, it's just such a good show, you know?
It
Do you
really
think they're
was.
filming already?
Well,
I would hope so, because I think there
yeah,
was.
I hope so too.
Or let me ask this, because I don't know when the transition happened. Um, at what point does Zuko have like the shaggy hair?
That's book 2.
Like the start
Yeah,
of book
I
I was gonna
believe.
say it's like yeah. Mhm.
Because I mean, the actor in the interviews kind of has that hair already going. So, do you think they're already filming it? Because I know that the guy who plays, or the boy who plays Aang, already said that, yeah, it's a skull cap that he has to wear. It's not like he's bald and they paint it on or anything like that. So I was like,
Right.
his hair's short enough. It kind of makes sense. Maybe they're already filming and not have to worry about it. But I don't know if this is one of those things where they have to like actually green light it before they get going, even though it's
would
clear
assume.
that they're gonna do a season 2.
I would
I
assume,
don't know.
because I mean, they nailed, like I said, they nailed all the parts that needed to be nailed. Like
Yeah.
Aang's origin story, like they had to get that right. You like, I always told people that had never seen the animated series, you're gonna come for the Avatar, you're gonna come for Aang, but you're gonna stay for Zuko, and they nailed Zuko to a T. Like that relationship, the guy that got to play Uncle Iroh was fantastic. And again, we got so much more out of that relationship in the show than we ever got in the animated series. Like having like no idea about, and that might have been something they added. If I can't, like I said, it's been a while since I watched the animated series. That whole bit about his son dying in the war and then Zuko being that connection, and that's how their relationship started. I can't recall if that's an exact flashback from the series or maybe they added that in there. Either way, again, more character stuff that we didn't get to get us connected to those two characters when they, so that way when they are doing stuff on screen,
They
we
didn't
care.
go full flashback, but they definitely had that as a story point in there. So yeah, I mean, I agree with
For
you.
which
The
part?
fact that they were able to flesh it out in there, sort of talking about how Zuko and Uncle Iroh
Oh, gotcha,
kind
gotcha.
of started their connection.
Connected.
Yeah.
And
So
showing
even the
Zuko's
little
heart also,
yeah,
which
oh yeah,
that takes multiple episodes in the animated series. And obviously, with pacing, they have to do it quicker. But you get all the beats of the character, and you get all that relationship. It was so good, and all my favorite side characters were in there too, like Boomy and all that kind of stuff. That was well done. I think it was weird that Boomy
And did you see who
looked
the
more like
actor
a
was who played
psychopath,
Boomy?
but no, who
It's
was
the
it?
guy from Pitch Perfect.
No shot. Is it really?
It's like the Indian actor. It's him.
oh, I
That's
don't know what.
fantastic.
Oh,
The guy who does
wow.
like
Great
the
makeup.
beatboxing. I was like, oh my god. I was like, he
Holy
looked
Great
crap.
familiar.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, I just looked up an article kind of as you were discussing, and it does look like I guess the purpose of the comment that they kind of did as a credit scene in a weird way. Um, it's supposed to be an indicator that there is that kind of time jump from season 1 to season 2 to kind of play with the aging up of obviously the actors, because I guess they said that Aang and Katara's actor and actress respectively were 11 and 14 when they started. So now that they're 14
Oh,
and
wow.
17, they know that the aging into it has to kind of play a part. So that makes sense. Okay, as long as they
Yeah.
had that in mind, because it is a race against the clock. It has not been officially renewed, so they can't actually start anything yet. But hopefully
It has
that
not been officially renewed.
it has
Wow.
not. Yeah. So hopefully it gets going. because they can't use any production or anything until it actually is like given the good thumbs up on it.
That's crazy. I literally can't think of a reason why this show wouldn't get renewed
I
already.
mean,
Like,
I guarantee you, like it's gonna come in the
It's the
next
Rotten
week or
Tomatoes
two.
scores. It's only holding like a 60 something
Yeah.
percent, and Twitter is blowing it up because we got all these weirdo
Well, let
weebs
me-
that are flaming the show for no
Let's try
reason.
to compare and contrast really quick.
wow, that is crazy. I just can't imagine. Like, it not to mention, it has such a following. Like, this
There are
has
also
to be one of.
psychopaths really trying to say that somehow the Shamhammer version was better than this version. Like,
Okay,
what
alright,
kind of
let's
crack
come.
are you
Yeah.
smoking?
Yeah, get out of here.
Ain't
The
no
crap.
way.
Yeah, no way. Literally
Sokka
no
was
way.
funny in this one, like he's supposed to be.
I
Sokka was
enjoy.
he
funny.
was-
I was
he
gonna
was
say
hilarious.
every
No,
single. I was like every little bit that
And
he had
he
in there.
is
I
a
enjoyed
player.
it.
Player.
Bro, okay, I was like, I
They
know,
got
I know.
all his
Obviously,
crushes in there too.
Yeah.
Homegirl Suki.
yeah.
Lord.
Ironically, I didn't realize she was in it until she showed up as Princess Yue. But that was my fan cast for X-23 when we did that X-Men. She was the actress from the
Mid Thunder, Amber Mid Thunder.
Prey movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, okay. She apparently was
Yeah.
also in Legion. That I didn't even realize she was in Legion.
The hell?
Yeah, she was the
Wow.
the.
She had to be a child when that. Wasn't
Had
she
to have
pretty
been
young?
a child. Yeah.
Let me-
Like,
Decently young.
Let me see who she
Legion's been a
played.
minute.
Like, yeah, it was like 2012, bro. Like Legion was
No,
a
it was
minute ago.
2017.
Feels like 2012.
What?
Yeah,
That was
2017.
17?
17 to 19. She played Carrie
Oh, wait.
Loudermilk.
Oh, Legion the show.
Yeah. What'd you think of it?
Gotcha. I thought you meant the movie.
Oh,
was
no,
thinking
no. The one with Paul Bettany?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I was about to
No,
say,
not
I
that
was
one.
like, from the diner, there was only like 10 people in that whole movie. I was like,
No.
oh,
no.
gotcha.
But other than that, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's sitting at a 59 critic rating and a 75 audience. I mean, let's face it though, Netflix has gone more seasons on less than that, right?
Right.
And I guarantee it's going to come out in the next 2 weeks or so because, well, like One Piece, it had a higher rating because I checked that right now. I wanted to kind of compare and contrast, but that came out relatively quickly.
One
on
Piece
the,
had higher ratings. Really?
It had, let me double check. It had 85 on critic and 95 on audience.
I just feel like that's got to be like a child actor deal. Like there's no way you just because they're kids and they're
Like,
coming
and-
into. I don't
'cause
understand the hate towards
It's
this
funny
show.
because when you watch it, it's like, what are these? How did the critics look at this? Like, are you looking at it as a writing standpoint, where the writing is literally created based off of an adaptation of this?
I would say if I was being super critical,
Mm-hmm.
there were the only two actors in the show that I felt like they're. I would say blossoming. I'm not going to even say because like I just feel like they haven't even been given a shot yet. Would have to be the actor for Katara and then the actor for Zuko because there were moments where it didn't quite hit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you could tell, especially Zuko. He had a couple moments where he was like sort of raging, and I
He
feel
tried
like it
to
didn't.
be like throw a tantrum, but it didn't.
Yeah,
come off.
yeah.
It came off
See,
unnatural. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I felt like the angrier parts of him weren't necessarily there yet.
Yeah.
But like that, if that's me being super critical on two very young actors. Like if I really had to put my critic hat on, like that's the only two that I could even see having any sort of issue. Like outside of that, I don't see how they didn't give the love to the rest of the cast because it's just I mean Daniel Day Kim, come on.
Uncle Iroh, he was a banger
Uncle
as
Iroh,
well.
yeah,
Come
he's
on.
so good. Yeah, shout out
And,
to
the
the boy. Yeah,
Ken Leung, who played General Zhao. Did you guys see the article that he didn't even realize what avatar he was auditioning for?
he thought he was like
thought
the
it
blue
was
man.
for the other one. I was like, come on. But I mean, I thought he did phenomenal, and I think it was pretty cool to see him in a bigger role than he normally has. He played. He's been a side character in a lot of shows for years.
He was
in
amazing.
Rush Hour or Lethal
He was in
Weapon?
The Last Stand. He was in The Last Stand. He was in Rush Hour 1.
It was Rush Hour. Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was
Yeah.
Rush Hour or Lethal
Hour,
Weapon. I think
yeah.
Lethal Weapon was Jet Li. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
Never mind. Yeah.
But either way, gentlemen, any last thoughts on Avatar: The Last Airbender live action Netflix?
Go watch it
adaptation?
for yourself. enjoy it. It's a great show, great cast, like we said. And the narrative is easy to follow because
Yeah.
it's well written. There's good emotional beats.
Mhm.
It has all the notes from book one that you remember from the animated series, minus like a couple side adventures here and there.
Yeah.
And it's just well done. It's really well done. I can't say enough. Go, just watch it.
And if you
for the
watch
love
the
of God.
show and you're upset with some of the CGI, do you know how much of this on screen looks phenomenal that I will gladly take a CGI look in Aang in a swirling orb than like the scaping of the villages and the areas. I was like, come on, like really?
The
Yeah.
people moments weren't great, but the overall, like all the elemental
I'll
stuff
take that sacrifice, you know?
yeah,
The
exactly,
bending looked
100%.
great. Appa looked
Yeah.
great. Momo looked great. You know what I mean?
Oh,
You could
Appa
tell they're
looked-
definitely
oh,
CGI,
gosh,
but
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah,
We were
I mean,
watching and Appa
they're
was just laying
animals.
next to us on the couch. I was like, that's you, bro.
I get it now.
I get it.
Oh,
I get it. But other than that, what a banger. Looking forward to what's coming next, any news coming out for that. But thank you, everybody who's tuned in today to listen to our podcast or give us a view on YouTube, whatever it may be. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We enjoyed having you be a part of ours. From all of us here at Poi N Soy, good vibes and love, everybody.
bang bang.